Awesome. Welcome back. Thanks for showing up, Mr. Austin. Um, thanks for uh, suggesting this movie that we are going to discuss.
Oh no.
And when I say thanks, I might be mildly sarcastic, and when I say mildly, I might be very sarcastic. But we'll see how the people or Mr. Austin thinks. I have my thoughts. Well, firstly, today we discussed a film called Cats. It was released in 2019. It's a musical film that's based on the same. It's basically the based on the same name as the musical that's adapted from. So there's a musical named Cats that was made in 1981, and this movie is an adaptation of that musical. It has it's about this cat who gets abandoned and then sort of falls in line with, not falls in line, but gets acquainted with these group of cats by the name of Jellicles, and essentially there's this like overarching plot where they're trying to figure the leader of the Jellicles or whatever is trying to like figure
Yeah.
out who to bring up or who to select so they can like be live a next life, become like reincarnated in some sense. I don't know. And then we have an antagonist by the name of like Macavity, who is trying to take that, trying to sabotage the people who are the cats who are eligible for selection, and try to basically steal the select or steal um basically become the one who is selected by
Right.
force.
Chosen one. Yeah.
The chosen one, yeah. Um, and yeah, so basically this whole film is just a bunch of like numbers, musical numbers of different eligible candidates who introduce themselves and kind of are, try their best to explain why they should be chosen and what they want to do with their next life. Um, yeah, there are some pretty interesting cast. It's an ensemble cast. It stars um, a lot of prominent folks, musical artists as well. Taylor Swift, Jason Derulo, James Corden, Idris Elba. So by no stretch of the imagination is this film like there's a lot of notable
Star-studded.
figures.
Yeah.
It's very star studded. Um, yeah, so like I think for me this film, yeah, I this is the first film that I watched on stream for this stream where I watched, um, and I stopped watching. Um, yeah, 30 minutes in, I was no longer interested. I didn't quite understand what exactly was going on in the plot yet, even though it had been 30 minutes. It's an hour and 40 minutes movie, so we're already like a third of the way through the movie. I still didn't really understand exactly what was going on in the plot. I didn't care for any of the characters that were introduced. I also thought that like it was hard to follow what was going on with the characters and their how they contribute how what why they're part of the plot through the numbers themselves, because how the characters were introduced was through numbers, and so it would be like a lot of like song and dance, um, which personally I found maybe like a bit distracting to sort of understand like why, who they are, what they want, like what their motivation is. Um, I think that if there was maybe more dialogue in between the numbers themselves, a little bit more like reprieve downtime, so we can collectively figure out like what's going on, that would have been nice. There were a few moments where like, oh yeah, that's cool. Like McCavity takes away the Rebel Wilson's cat character, and I was like, okay, there's conflict. That's a conflict. Great plot progression. I love it. But those the moments are few and far between. Um, I will say James Corden's appearance was pretty funny. I seeing him in like a big fat suit and as a cat was like I think quite hilarious. Him prancing around trying to like eat stuff. Yeah, that was quite the funny moment. But I don't know. This movie definitely it speaks volumes to the fact that like I just wasn't able to finish it, and I struggled through those first 30 minutes because I just didn't understand what was going on a high level, as much as I wanted it, and also I didn't care for any of the characters, including our main character, Victoria, who was basically a bystander throughout the entire film, from what I understand. So, yeah. Did this film need to be made?
Good
Honestly,
question.
probably not. If it wasn't made, I don't think anyone would be like missing it. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. I don't think a majority of people would be missing it necessarily, but it is an adaptation of a musical. So
Right.
it's not like original. So I can understand why it was made. Did it have to be made? Probably, from my perspective, probably not. But there are things that we can learn from mistakes. Um, I also will say I will make a comment about the CGI of this film. I don't think it was like I thought the cats looked creepy. The CGI of the VFX of the people and the as cats looked a bit creepy, and I just couldn't quite get used to it. Um, Not to say that I could do any better, and I do feel bad for the VFX team. Um, yeah, but like I just it was creepy, it was distracting, and I couldn't get used to the visual effects of this film. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Mr. Austin, go at it, please.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, this movie, watching it, I do enjoy musicals. I love Broadway plays and whatnot, but this is probably one where I don't think I've enjoyed too much.
Mm,
Um, I just remember watching it. And this movie was kind of boring, right? Just like going through it seemed to drag on. I remember just remember the 20 minutes, as I said before, 20-minute mark. I was watching. I was like, how much longer do I have? And I still have like a whole hour to go, hour plus to go. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a long movie, and to sit through. And I think it's boring because there's really, again, no no real conflict or motivation being sold right through these musical numbers and dance numbers, right? I think it would have been fine to have all these musical and dance numbers, but I think that more story and character moments need to be sold within it, right? We
mm,
need to know more about the emotions or motivations of why some of these cats want to be chosen, because I think we only really get to know the motivation of the first two cats. But the rest of the cast thereafter, we just get to just who they are, what they do, but we don't understand why they want to enter this Jellicle ball, right? So
mm,
then, this makes us not as engaged,
mm,
right? And I think, this also kind of applies to the villain as well, right? Macavity, played by Idris Elba. He's there, he's menacing, right? But, he wants to be chosen, but we don't get to see, why he's doing this, right? What happens when he succeeds? There's no stake involved. At least we don't understand what stakes are involved, right? So it gets kind of confusing. And even Grisabella, who gets chosen at the end, spoiler, right? Like every time she's on screen, she's sad. But I don't think I really understood why. I mean, it probably could have been told. It was probably told in her song, but maybe I just didn't understand it, right? Maybe it's not as explicit in the song as I would have liked to
mm,
understand it, right? But every time she's on screen, it's sad. It's supposed to be powerful, this powerful moment, right? Because she's really, like, really, she's really emotional. She sells it,
mm.
but I just don't understand why she sells it, right? Well, not why she sells it, why she's doing it, why she's sad.
Yeah.
To get that would have been nice to understand her character. I think the only character we really get to understand, again, is Mr. Mistopheles, right? We see his character arc, we see his progression, we see him, throughout the way helping Victoria. He's in love with Victoria, he's falling in love with Victoria, right? And this culminates at the end where he kind of helps her or helps bring old Deuteronomy back, right?
Yeah.
This whole musical. That is a character who has agency, who we follow along, who we're rooting for, and it's probably the most interesting portion of this movie. Every other character, I just was there, right, and doesn't really give you, doesn't really, make me understand why they're there, what this story's about. I mean, this story just becomes about, showcasing who these cats are,
Mm,
and that's the whole majority, right? And it doesn't make for an interesting story, especially if the antagonist doesn't really have, too much to go about. And he's, the villain is very defeated very easily, and his henchmen don't play too much. Like
right.
Taylor Swift is his henchman. Like, that's wow. She had a great number,
She did
right?
have
But
a great
nothing
number.
happens after
I
her.
do
She
remember that
doesn't
part.
help fight. She
Yeah.
doesn't help fight. She doesn't do anything. So I was like, okay, like nothing's happening afterwards, and it just, it does. There's no sense of accomplishment when he's defeated, right? And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and again, with all these other cats, again, there's nothing much happening. The CGI, I think at first it looked strange because it seemed like it was just the faces plastered onto these cat bodies. But I think I got over it just because of my just. I mean, I wasn't even focused. I was trying to get some semblance of like a story. Like, musicals are supposed to be fun and exciting. Even some of the dance numbers, supposed to be fun and exciting. But
Mm,
they serve no purpose, right? And because of that, I just couldn't get into it, right? And
mm,
there's nothing that made them like you make you remember them, or just make you kind of say, oh yeah, like that was good. This is powerful. This is emotional. You feel for the character.
Mhm.
You feel sympathetic. No, there's nothing, no emotion in this movie, right? Because it just tells you them, tells you this kind of very simple plot of introducing who they are, not even why they do the things that they do, right? And then there's the whole end scene with old Deuteronomy with her spiel, which yes, I guess you could say there's emotional undertone, religious undertones, right? But it was very strange dialogue because she just it was, I think for me it was very out there, right? Because it kind of seems out of character because she was this like wise character, but then she comes a smug character, which maybe is like a cat, right? But still, it just because she says, "Oh, a cat is not a doll," says it twice or three times. It was out there because it seems like very ridiculous. Like, yeah, I mean, we know that, but I guess she really wanted to hammer that point home, and just all these things about how to treat a cat, looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall. I think you kind of there could have been a better way to maybe express that emotion than doing it at that scene. But overall, this whole film probably did have religious undertones, which could have been interesting to maybe explore, but they don't really do that, right? Or again, this movie is just a lot of musical numbers. They probably could have explored. I think what really could have improved this movie is improving the songs, right? Because the songs really are the agencies here to sell these character moments. But the songs that we got and the dance numbers that we got really don't sell it, right? They just tell who they are. There's more emotional, more motivational undertones in these songs, with the lyrics. I think this movie could have been a lot better in telling us, keeping us more engaged and sympathetic to all these cats. But it's not so.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I also think that there could have been more times devoted to not musical parts. But I mean, I guess to each their own. But cool. Okay, so like I guess like our ratings now. So my rating for this film is smack dab a one. I literally
But,
give this movie a
oh
one
yeah, you couldn't
because I
finish
could
it.
not finish this movie. Um, yeah, I just didn't care. I didn't understand the plot through the numbers quite as well as I wanted to. I didn't care for any of the characters, to be honest. I mean, to be fair, like I think the song and dance were fine, in terms of like just like by themselves, but like collectively for this like progression of like this movie and the story that I was trying to tell, I just didn't think it did its job.
Yeah,
Also, the CGI cast were just they're too creepy
too
for
much.
me to like to watch. Um, yeah, literally, yeah, this movie gets a one. Like I'm very glad I did not sit through in a theater and watch this film, and I'm very glad I did not pay money to watch this film either. Those are the two things. Oh yeah. Anyway, that's my
Yeah.
rating.
Okay. This is kind of difficult for me because, like, for a movie that I usually do not like, it's because I found it too cheesy or I'm like cringing through it because I just don't like the comedy. I have a very visceral reaction to a movie, right?
Yep.
I really don't like it. But this movie is kind of like I don't have that there's no strong dislike for this movie, right? It's just more like it's there. I just found it boring. I didn't enjoy it, like going through it, like just watching it.
Yeah.
Um, but there were like a few parts, like few songs that I like, and very few parts that I did enjoy. But for the most part, I just this movie was just existed, right? And I'm just like, oh yeah, like I don't know, and that's me, if it makes it difficult for me to gauge because I kind of want to give it a one, right? Like just say like
Oh my
yeah,
God, we
this,
agree. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
there's like the very small part. Like some of the songs, like I like musicals, so some of the songs were catchy, and I did enjoy it, right? And I don't know if that raises it to the 1.5. I would not give this a two, right? Like, so I was debating. So I'm
All
just
right.
like, is this the worst movie I've ever seen? And I guess it is.
The worst movie you've ever seen, including off stream, like off stream.
Off street, like
Well, that's a bit. I mean, honestly, I will say this that like
a one is a very strong. I feel like I guess
one is like you just got literally nothing. There's the film. It's like literally for me a one is like if you just could not finish the film at all. Like you could not even sit through it to the very end. That would be a one.
yeah.
Like that's to me a
I mean,
one.
I mean, there was a point, right? I mean, I sat through it because I know I had to watch it, right? Because I wanted to discuss it, right?
Yeah.
I told you like right in the middle of the film. I was really going to text you like can we change this movie?
Yeah.
I could not. I really just did not see a
You know what's
point.
hilarious? Also, last week I think we were talking about we never gave any movie a one. Like the lowest that we gave
Yeah.
before this movie was a two, and now we watched this film. Good timing.
I
Good
guess
timing.
yeah, it is. I mean, it's just like how I guess a 10 is like the most perfect. The one doesn't have to
Yeah.
everything has
One
to be
doesn't necessarily mean that's
terrible,
like the worst.
right?
Like there's no such thing as
Yeah,
like yeah. It's just
yeah,
it's personal, right?
yeah.
And to be fair, like how we scale this is we scale from 1 to 10, where kind of like 1 to 2 is like I don't know, you kind of lost. Basically, you couldn't finish the movie, or you lost brain cells watching this film. Like, there's nothing redeemable about it, or very little redeemable about it. 3 and 4 is like there's redeemable parts of it, but it's like not. It's still bad, but it's redeemable. 5, 6 is like average. You wouldn't necessarily recommend it to a general audience, but like you yourself didn't like it wasn't like um cringe or it wasn't like you were uncomfortable throughout the film watching it. Like you just could you it was average. 7, 8 is like this part where you start like, okay, yeah, I would recommend this. You like it's good, you would recommend it, but there are some parts that are like lackluster or like lacking that you could think that could improve the film. And 9, 10 is basically like it's almost like to your standard. Like this is a great film. I would strongly recommend it. And like essentially, there's nothing big you would change to improve it. That's sort of like the dynamic of the scale for 1 to 10 for our new viewers out there, just to give a little bit of context. But yeah, I give it a 1 because I could not finish this film, and
yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I think I give it a 1. Just
oh,
it's
our
just
first ones. How
yeah, it's
wonderful,
just wonderful.
wonderful. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm glad
And I
that
would
we
not
found.
recommend. Yeah,
Yeah, okay. And I would not recommend it either. There are better movies out there. I'm sure there are better musicals out there.
yeah,
Um,
to enjoy.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. So there goes it. That's our discussion for Cats for today.
Oh,
But we will update the schedule accordingly on Twitch with our new film and when it will be. We'll also update our website, which is posted in the chat. Um, but yeah, that's it for today's discussion. We'll be back with another film at some point. Yeah, usually we do this. We usually do this on Sundays at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So that's the default. But we'll update the schedule accordingly, and we will choose the film too. So all right, cool. Well, this is where the stream ends. We'll see you guys next time, and have a great day.
bye.
Yeah.